Apollo, but also the first shuttle mission. Now we have the layout. Okay. Then we have the Universal Studios, which I said earlier, if you watched, Universal is the globe. It has a globe, universe. Now, what I want to really point out to you is that inside here, not only Millennium is a street that wasn't there before inside this triangle, where I say Great Pyramid layout. There's also a street added inside here too, called Kings Point. You can see it right here. Kings Point. That's Kings Point there. No King Point here. No Millennium Boulevard. Which goes back to this. Which goes back to this. Which goes to this. Now, I said what I said because I can prove what I'm saying. Now, a lot of times we have our situation where we have our birth certificate identification telling us who we are, the state. Some people don't even know who they are. They might have been born without a name, been born without knowing who their parents are. The state issues you a birth certificate. Then with that birth certificate, you get your social security number. Then later on, you get your state ID. How do you get that? The state recognizes you as who you are, because you're given this type of information to go along with the criteria to identify you. You might get a passport later on. Now, I understood all that growing up. And had I been into any type of experience where I was trying to create something, I might say, well, this is just a figment of my imagination. But it's not. This is all real. Now, for me to be able to come out spending 11 years after the fact in this place, when I went in, I explained to them what was going on. But of course, like I said, they have no respect for anybody's religion, anybody's belief, which I wasn't trying to talk about a religion. I was talking about facts, reality, natural law that exist. Something that I'm almost sure that those who were wise knew would happen. So now I'm here putting it out for anybody to see. Now, if you have a problem with the points and how the billboards created a point in the triangle, probably need to go check out Sacred Geometry. Sacred Geometry will let you know how all this evolves and where it originated from. I'm not here to make anything up. I'm just here to let it down and let you see how this thing went down, how it's going down. If I didn't lay down on this thing for 11 years, I'm going to lay down on it now. People talk about things, and I'm going to show you. I didn't have anybody to stand behind me while I was explaining this or talking to these people about it. I did it by myself. So if I did it by myself then, I do it by myself now. Basically, when I tried to explain it, this is what the result was. Sat down with a man who I believe was a intelligent person. Maybe he had an understanding of paranormal, but instead of that, as they always do, they like to discredit you by saying that you're delusional. When I told them about my experience with pyramids, this was here, February 27th, 1998. Okay? I didn't get here until June 16th, 1998. See, what's delusional about that? After explaining this. Talking about this. Some people have a problem explaining and talking about their experience of having gone to prison. That was my first time ever, so I had my mind wide open. I knew that everything that was going on prior to that was something that I knew had nothing to do with what I was supposed to be going there for. This was something different. This had to deal with natural law. This had to do with something that I had been dealing with all my life. When I showed the way the houses were laid out, like the Orion constellation, these are all existing things. The Orion is a constellation that exists. The pyramids that this created exist. I mentioned this before. Now, when I come out, spending all that time, still on my conviction, standing on the truth, I now reside in the Great Pyramid King's Chamber. As I said prior to that. Prior to that, I was living in the 3 houses that made the belt of Orion. Then here we have, next to it, the Orion Court. That's right above the circle, which is also inside of the Great Pyramid, as far as the shaft pointing to it. Above here, also, the street's called King's Port, King's Gate, between the circled house and the 3 houses that I said, that included the 5, that I said matched the 5 stars in Orion. King's Gate, King's Bridge, King's Port. And that's not including the recent addition of King's Point Parkway inside the same triangle layout. So when I said what I said about being Osiris and showing how only through this situation it could happen. This was a form of magic. Now you see the idea of 2012, talking about the pole shift. It's all real. The eye in that dollar over the pyramid is my eye. The eagle, the one, it's all here. You can believe it or not, but it's true. Now, this is only the beginning.